Test, test. 1, 2. Test, test.
Hello and welcome to Nicole's celebration of life. As most of you know, can you hear me okay? As most of you know, Nicole passed away peacefully on Tuesday, December 23rd at her home. We have come here today to honor and remember our dear friend and family member who brought love, laughter, and joy to our lives. Again, my name is Sophia, and I've been a friend of Nicole for close to 28 years. She was the first woman I met in the program here in Hollywood, and I am forever grateful for that meaningful connection. I miss her smile and laughter, and sure time I have with her in my life. A few announcements. Before we get started, if you could kindly switch your cell phones to a position that will not disturb the celebration, that would be appreciated. Please help yourself to coffee, tea, water, and snacks on the tables. If you need to smoke, please take it off the park grounds. to the sidewalk right out here in front by exiting the hall through the main entrance. Smoking is prohibited anywhere in the park, should be 20 feet from the structure. Restrooms are located in the back corners, the female and male. And there's a memory table in the back, located in the back, and there are many photographs to look at. Please feel free to take one of the loose photos. Please take a memory card and a program as a keepsake of Nicole and the Celebration of Light. Those are located in the foyer. If at any time you have any questions, please see one of the volunteers here today. Volunteers, please raise your hands so we can, if you need anything, just find one of us. We will help you. Today we will honor our dear friend Nicole, and there will be an opportunity for sharing toward the end of the program. For now, we will present a slideshow of Nicole's memories, and we will play that for you now. Is that ready? Yes? Okay.
Other guys through space to a friend, a sister in need, who is not alone, and they are surrounding her, and they will enfold her outstretched hand in our love.
That was lovely. We can celebrate. We can celebrate today. Now we're going to have some background and history from Steve. Are you ready?
Nicole Whitledge, born Deborah Ann Whitledge, was welcomed into the world on April 21st, 1956 at 11:23 a.m. in Dearborn, Michigan, the cherished daughter of Antoinette Whitledge, née Villela, and William Whitledge. She grew up in Dearborn with her younger brother Bill, her uncles Michael and Victor, and her aunts Mickey, Fran, and Mary, forming the strong family roots that would guide her life. A graduate of Fordson High School, Nicole pursued her passion for beauty by attending cosmetology school and becoming a hairdresser, a career she cherished for over 50 years. In 1983, she embraced a new chapter by changing her first name to Nicole and moving to Los Angeles, where she worked in her uncle Michael Villella's salon at the iconic Sunset Plaza. It was in Los Angeles that she met the love of her life, Matt, in 1987. They married on March 4th, 1990, and shared 36 years of deep happiness and partnership. Nicole was a pillar of strength in Narcotics Anonymous, celebrating 32 years of continuous clean time and devoting herself to serving newcomers and the vulnerable. Her heart overflowed with compassion for children, the elderly, and those in early recovery, and especially stray animals. Over the last 25 years, she cared for an average of 6 dogs and 4 cats at any time, tirelessly spaying, neutering, reuniting lost pets with owners, or finding them forever homes. If no other option existed, she welcomed them into her own family for life. Nicole is lovingly remembered by her husband, Matt, her best friend, Steve Claudio, her niece, Sandra Whitledge, nephew, Chris Whitledge, and all whose lives she brightened with her generosity and grace. Her legacy of love, creativity, service, and second chances will endure forever. She lives on, not as a memory that fades, but as the quiet courage in our choices, the extra kindness we extend, and the hope we offer others. Nicole's legacy thrives in every one of us she touched, carrying forward her grace, generosity, and her radiant heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That was beautiful. And now her husband, Matt, will come up and say some words for us.
Hello, everybody. Dear family, friends, thank you all for being here today to honor Nicole, my wife and the love of my life. Maybe I can tell you something about her you never knew. 38 years ago, my then songwriting partner took me to get a haircut. That was the day I met Nicole, and that would be the day my life changed forever. A couple months and a couple hair points later, I mustered up the courage to ask her out on a date. I don't think she was that into the idea, and she tried to back out of it. She told me that she had a runny nose and might be getting a cold. But I managed to convince her that the tom yum soup from the Thai place I was taking her would make both our noses run and it would be great for her cold. And somehow she bought that ridiculous idea and acquiesced. So we went to the restaurant and we went to a movie, and then we went back to her cute little guest house on 849 Vista, which is just a couple blocks from here. And we stayed up all night till 4 a.m. and talked. And I drank all her beer. And she told me about her life in Detroit and her friends and her family and her mom and her uncles and her brother. And then a few days later, she called me up and asked me to come over and fix her fan. We were in one of those September heat waves, and so this sounded a little bit more legitimate than it probably sounds right now. Anyway, I can't remember if I fixed the fan, but what I can tell you for sure is that I never left, and from that day, we were together for the rest of her life. At that time, I was 23 and a literal child, unsure of who I was and what life could be. She was 31, a strong, independent woman who had been making it on her own for many years. She saw things instantly, whether she liked someone or something or she didn't, and her judgment was almost never wavered. One thing that she didn't like was her given name, Deborah Ann. So when she was old enough to change it, she became Nicole, which of course suited her perfectly, like everything she chose for herself. Nicole's superpower was discrimination, paired with her wild, creative imagination, and that made her magnetic. She had a beautiful smile that lit up rooms, a voice that could soothe and tease, and those golden eyes, golden like her hair, and they could see right through you and still somehow make you feel safe. Early on, probably on the first night, she saw my struggles clearly, my drinking, my addictions, and instead of kicking me to the curb, she pointed me towards AA. She helped me find meetings, new friends, and eventually an amazing sponsor. Then she made her own decision and got clean too. March 1993 was her start in Narcotics Anonymous, and I followed in AA that fall. And for 32 years, she stayed clean, and I stayed sober. She'd always say, clean, and I'd always say, sober. That was one of our little battles. We kept our programs separate and also our lives in many ways, our careers, our clients, many friends in their own orbits. We built a life that worked because of who she was. She held me accountable when I needed it most, gave me direction when I had none. She helped me find work, believed in me when I didn't, supported me emotionally until I slowly found confidence. And that confidence let me build a career that eventually supported both of us. She was my compass in all things. Nicole was incredibly creative, a talented hairdresser and beautician with flawless fashion sense and a sharp, wicked sense of humor. She was private, fiercely protective, and loyal to the bone to those she let in. And she loved the vulnerable. She collected stray animals and stray people. She saw brokenness and didn't turn away. Instead, she healed it. Steve was our one great shared friend. For me, he was the crash test dummy who could absorb some of Nicole's powerful, jealous love and also give her the attention she craved when I wasn't giving her enough. For her, I think he was a brother and best friend rolled into one. Looking back, I believe both Steve and I arrived in her life a little broken. She took us in, loved us fiercely, and turned us into her crowning achievements. Sorry, guys, got to turn the page and it's stuck. It's almost done. Nicole didn't just save me once, she kept saving me every day for 38 years. Through her example, her honesty, and unwavering presence, she made me a better man, a better partner, and a better human. Today, we honor the woman who changed her name to match her spirit, who made people feel beautiful on the outside and on the inside, who fixed stray animals and broken people, who stayed clean and helped others find their way, who loved all strays and gave them homes. My beautiful Nicole, with your golden eyes and your golden hair and your golden heart, I thank you. I thank you for seeing me before I could see myself. I thank you for choosing me every day. And I thank you for the life we built together. I will carry you with me always, your smile, your voice, and your fierce love until we meet again. I love you, Nicole.
That was beautiful, and I love the fan story. It's a good story. Next, we will have her her nephew, Chris.
All right, that's going to be pretty tough to follow, but I'm going to do my best. First, I want to thank everyone who's here with us today and everyone who's watching on YouTube. My name is Chris Whitledge, and I'm Nicole's nephew. My aunt was an amazing person, a great wife, and a great friend to so many people. She touched an incredible number of lives, and this room represents only a small portion of the people she reached, especially through her years of devotion to NA. We all know she was a huge animal lover. When I was a kid, I'd always ask her how many cats and dogs she had, and she'd tell me the stories of how she found them, or sometimes how they found her. Second only to animals, she was a people lover. She was always willing to help, whether it was in sobriety or just in life. So many people relied on her friendship, her advice, and her outlook. There's a reason why she had so many lifelong friendships, and that's clear by the number of people here today. She was tough on the outside, but soft on the inside. Saying the wrong thing could get you either side of her. But you always knew where you stood, no beating around the bush. She was as genuine as they come. And family was really incredibly important to her. Even though she lived in California and much of our family lived in Michigan, she was always there for the important moments. Christmas, graduations, at least a trip every year just because. She stayed close with her aunts that lived there, kept up with their lives. She would fly my Nana out every couple of years. They went amazing places, Alaska, all around California, Universal Studios, but mostly, I think they just went shopping. Even when she wasn't in Michigan, she was always checking in. She talked with my Nana a couple times a week. She was there for my dad through both good times and bad, always trying to help in any way she could. Living out here, she was especially close with her Uncle Michael. She truly made time for everybody in her life. But to me, she was the cool aunt that lived in California. Wild style, a loving and equally cool rock star husband, an awesome career that she was super passionate about, and great friends from all walks of life. She traveled the world, and that's a life most people would dream of. That was my Aunt Nicole. One of the most memorable things about her was her style. When she came to town, you never knew which Aunt Nicole was going to show up. Dressed up in a skirt and high heels, or blue jeans and a trucker hat with aviator sunglasses, or maybe even a sweatsuit with some Chuck Taylors. You know, going through some of the pictures and some of the slideshows, you know, you could see that no two pictures were the same. Definitely had a lot of style. She even styled Uncle Matt with some wild looks. I seen some pictures. He had some Ollie G glasses and a little mohawk in another picture. You know, Nicole was an amazing person, and she was deeply loved. She'll be greatly missed. And I just want to thank everybody for coming to celebrate her life. I'm looking forward to hearing more stories about her and the legacy she leaves behind. Thank you.
Down. Okay, now we're going to have a few words from Steve.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Claudio, and for the past 26 years, Nicole was my best friend. A person I turned to, laughed with, and leaned on more than anyone else. You know, Nicole was simply beautiful in every way that matters. You know, she carried a warmth that made people feel seen and safe the moment they met her. You know, I saw it with many newcomers in recovery and later on with animals. And for me, when I was that burnt out, frazzled new guy, not sure if I belonged, Nicole didn't just welcome me, she showed up for me. She listened without judgment, offered encouragement, and many times that was tough love, you know. She wasn't, you know, she was real about it. And yeah, and that felt real to me. And she believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. So that single act of kindness really changed everything for me. She didn't preach recovery, she lived it. And she showed me what real friendship looks like. Steady, generous, and all in. You know, we had so many great memories together that I hold close to my heart. You know, so many concerts, celebrating birthdays, hanging with friends. You know, she cut my hair for the last 26 years, so sitting in her chair, she always had good ideas for my hair, and you know, she was never wrong. And a lot of times I'd ask for a haircut, and she'd do something that she thought was appropriate. And it was always good afterwards, so no complaints there. Let's see, and you know, we talked about everything, you know, and we talked about nothing, but somehow I always felt renewed afterward. You know, and we used to binge watch TV a lot. We used to walk the dogs, you know, the 6 dogs, and whenever we walked the dogs, we had an army of cats trailing us that she used to feed in the neighborhood, so they all loved her as well. And, you know, we went to many meetings together. We always sat side by side, and, you know, after a few years of that, you know, many people thought, they knew she was married, but they thought I was her husband, you know. So we used to call me her NA husband. So, you know, I used to go there a lot for dinners with her and Matt, at least once a week or more, and they were always delicious and interesting, especially when Nicole felt like she was excluded from the conversations Matt and I were having. You know, we didn't always see eye to eye. We had our moments. You know, we had some stubborn disagreements, different opinions, and the usual bumps that come with knowing someone so deeply. But those never lasted. Our friendship was bigger, stronger, more forgiving, and then sometimes Matt had to come in and save the day. Any difference faded next to the bond we shared. That's another lesson she gave me. Real love outweighs everything else. And, you know, throughout her illness, Nicole was brave and strong in a way that really impressed me. She faced it with grace, courage, and even flashes of her signature humor when she could muster it. So she kept loving, kept giving, and kept being Nicole right to the end. Losing her has made the world feel, for me, quieter, duller, like a favorite color's been drained away. But she wouldn't want us lingering in the gray. You know, Nicole would want us laughing, you know, reaching out, you know, to the people that look lost, saying yes to life instead of holding back. So today, I make this promise in her honor. I'm going to keep her beautiful spirit alive by being kinder without keeping score, by saying yes to opportunities, big and small, by loving people around me the way she loved us. All in, no hesitation, no half measures. Nicole, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for showing me courage, compassion, and what true friendship feels like. I love you more than words can ever say, and I'll carry you with me every single day, in the quiet moments, in the loud ones, and in every act of kindness I choose. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate her beautiful life.
Thank you, Steve. Now we will hear from her dear friend, Elodie.
Hello. For those who don't know me, my name is Elodie Powers, and I'm one of Nicole's longtime friends. Nicole and I, we met in the early 90s in Hollywood, LA. Nicole came into the rooms just a little bit after I did. So we started our journey, early recovery journey together. We were both new. We were told to attend a lot of meetings, and that's what we did every day, all the time. We'd go to the church on the southeast corner of Fairfax and Fountain. We'd go to the Drug and Alcohol Center on Santa Monica Boulevard. We'd go to the church on Melrose and Mansfield. We'd go all over the place. And that's how we got to know each other and became close friends. We were lucky to be part of a tight-knit group of addicts at that time. That was really special. And everyone was being super, super supportive of each other. We were full of energies. All of us wanted to get our lives in order. It was exhilarating, scary, up, down, just a roller coaster. We were disclosing our truth, our fears, our joy, our sorrow. We lived a lot of life together, relying on each other for support, for everything, doing a lot of hanging out before the meeting, in between the meeting, after the meeting, every day. And so it went. We got to be of service together at the group level, at the committee level, at the area level. Nicole was very involved and passionate about what we did as a collective in Narcotics Anonymous, and so was I. She was solid, reliable, consistent, genuine, super fun and sassy. And most of all, she was real, super kind, thoughtful, and loyal. She helped many on her recovery journey selflessly. My life was so much better for it. With Nicole, I got to discover a few firsts clean. I can't even see anymore. Got to experience a few firsts clean. It's scary to do things clean for the first time. And so one of those was, going out for just the sake of going out and having fun, which was mind-blowing to me. She knew where to go, and she knew how to do it. And so we'd go to Drag Strip 66. It was that club that took place once a month at Rudolfo's, a nondescript Mexican restaurant in Silver Lake, and offered, as per the club's bio, a subversive collision of performance, music, fashion, masquerade, and fun. Everything that Nicole loved, and I got to love as well, thanks to her. Going out with Nicole was such a blast. Getting ready, dressing up, getting there at the perfect time, not too early. She knew just how, and I would just follow direction. We would also go to Rage in West Hollywood, usually on Monday nights. We'd go bowling at the Hollywood Star Lanes, where the Big Lebowski was shot, with other friends after a Friday night meeting on Santa Monica Boulevard. As if we knew how precious what we shared was, Nicole and I always got to express how much we loved each other every time we saw each other. She would call me affectionately Elle. She had a special way of saying my name when she saw me. I will miss that very much. And we talked about everything and everyone. I sat on that chair of hers as well for many years. And whether time had passed or not, we never skipped a beat. It was always on between us. Nicole gave me my most beautiful looks. She was super talented and creative. She would often have gifts for me, no special occasions, just because. I have so many fond memories of Nicole. I will hold on to them and cherish them dearly. She taught me a lot about friendship. She was sincere, loving, accepting, and caring. My heart goes out to Matt, to her best friend Steve, to her family, and to her loved ones. I'm deeply thankful for all that Nicole and I got to share. And as we ritually say goodbye today, to Nicole from this realm, I wish her journey to be peaceful, painless, joyful, And may we all, during this time, our time here, continue to express the love she so generously expressed with each of us. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Elodie. And now we'll like to hear from her other dear friend, Phil, from New Jersey.
Wow. That's all I could say is wow. Wow. Whew. Well, all I could really say is that, like, just being really fortunate that my life took me to that coffee shop on a Sunset, you know, back in the 90s. And I was, just, you know, I was in this coffee shop, and this woman kept walking in, you know, and she had that laughter in those eyes and just was just kind. And, you know, we hit it off, we became friendly, and of course, you know, she turned me on to a lot of local meetings and stuff like that. But when I was talking to Elodie last week, you know, I knew some people when I came out here, you know, but she was the first one in Hollywood who, like, reached out to me and became my friend, like, unconditionally. And that's, like, the one word that always comes up when I reading the stuff, and when Steve was reading it before, that, like, Nicole was very unconditional, but she was very matter of fact, and I appreciate that. And, like, she had that look, the eyes, everyone's talking about her eyes, the eyes in that smile. Nicole had those eyes when I was, like, when I would be fucking off and doing stupid shit, she'd give me this look like, you sicko. Like, she always used that word, sicko, you know. I love the way she said that, you know. And people are laughing, but, you know, again, I don't want to get too much into all that, but the one thing I want to say that I feel really fortunate about is that, you know, a lot of us do what we do, and we meet a lot of people, right, doing what we do, and but very few people really change the trajectory of your life, and that's what Nicole did for me. And, you know, I was working in the shop, and, you know, and I was getting a lot of doors slammed in my face, and she was like, well, you know, let me introduce you to my husband. And I was like, who's your husband? You know, he's got a place. And so I'm one of the people who feel very fortunate that I've got to know Nicole and Matt well. And our lives have been on this journey for quite a long time. And through that, my life just changed, like, instantly. And I can't talk about Nicole without talking about Matt, because we've been through so much and had so much fun, a lot of ups and downs. And, like, you know, driving, when I was on the plane yesterday, I was thinking about this time that, like, Matt and I drove back to Los Angeles from Texas after working out there together. And we just raged and laughed and had, like, the best time, you know. And then going straight to the house with Nicole, and like, what took you guys so long? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But, you know, all those little things you think about, and, like, you know, and I thought about this morning. Like, I was driving over from, you know, where I'm staying, and I remember one time being at the coffee shop, and I told Nicole I needed a new pair of sunglasses. And she was like, let's go. And she took me to this place up on Sunset, and we went sunglass shopping. And she, you know, I didn't even know if I really liked the glasses that much, but I knew she liked them, so I thought they were kind of cool. So I figured, well, she thinks they're cool, they gotta be cool, so let me get these sunglasses. And I was thinking about it, like, maybe that led me to this crazy thing with always having to have cool glasses, because Nicole instilled this thing in me, you know? And it's all the little stuff. But this is where it gets emotional for me. Is like, there's not that many people that, like with Matt and Nicole, like, they knew not just me, but my whole family. My mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. Like, I remember Nicole and Matt like, Matty came out to work in Jersey, and we were all at the house, like, having dinner, and it was like, they just fit right in. It was, like, amazing, you know? And I remember one time also, too, with Matt, we went to the grocery store in Jersey, and he's on the phone with Nicole, and we're shopping, and it's so just, I can't even put it into words how hard Nicole and I laughed after that. You know, just like the laughter, and you know, she was really, really great to my brother. You know, that's like, if you were good to my brother, like if I got a spot in my heart for you, and you were good to my brother, that spot gets a lot bigger. And the way she was with Nick was just like everything it had said in the program. You know, like she really did have that thing for people when they were you know, just coming in and just down and out. And, you know, when Nick showed up to LA, he had a black eye out here, and Nicole was like, oh, I'll hang out with him. You know, like, you know, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And it just led to a special friendship and relationship, you know, and the memories. What's great about memories, we were talking to somebody earlier, is like, the memories lead to the here and now, and Nicole did have that infectious laughter, those eyes that were just like, she knew stuff, and you know, and I'll say this, and you know, there's something about, I don't know what it is, but people from Michigan, I don't know what it is, man, but there's something really special about that state, and there's something about, like, you know, the journeys I've been on with Matt, you know, and the journey, you know, and the things with her, and there's just something about the way they see things, you know. I don't know if it's maybe it's the water in Flint, I don't fucking know, but what do I know? But when you have special connections, they go deep, you know, and I don't know what else to really say other than that, like, you know, the memories, like, the memories lead to the here and now, and the memories are the things that, like, we get to hold on to help us move forward, you know, in the good and the bad and stuff like that. And you know, I will always have that special time where I'll just never forget. I'll tell this story like really, really quick, and a lot of people know it, but it was that time in my life when Nicole brought me over to meet Matt, and things were like, you know, it was just, that's where I was in my life. But what are the chances are that here I am, and my childhood friend calls me and tells me to go look at this place because she's thinking about coming to Los Angeles to work with Matt. And that was just like a really, you can't make this stuff up, you know, when you show up and do the right thing. And through that, it led to a journey that, you know, I knew that I had to come out here today. You know, I just knew that it was a very special thing that, like, you just have to do certain stuff, you know, and because of certain people. And when people have that impact on your life, it's like, it's pretty, I don't know, like, I'm not much one for words, but like, it's more like the doing. And like, you know, like, that's one thing I always really admired so much about Nicole, is that with how she was with people, she was there and she didn't talk about it. You know, a lot of people like to talk about what they do and pound their chests and stuff like that, but there was this person just there, you know, and that's a gift. And I think that, like, one of the things that I try to do with these kind of memories and people is put them in my heart and keep them there and keep it close, because, you know, this journey that we're on, it changes, you know, and it goes up and down and all around. But when we have those little nuggets of special memories, it takes us pretty far. So, Matt, you know I love you. We've been through so much together, and I'm really honored to be asked to do this. And yeah, I'm ready to hear from some other people. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil, and thanks for making the journey out here to California. Next, we're going to hear from her very dear friend, Lynn.
Hi, my name is Lynn. I'm an addict. It's good to see so many familiar faces and so many people I don't know, but I know love Nicole. Okay, I was like, oh, I don't need to write anything, and then suddenly, like in the middle of the night, I'm like up writing things, you know. So Nicole and I, first of all, she knew my mother. She cut my mother's hair back when they were using, because at some point my mom was there and Nicole was there, and it became clear that she had given Nicole and Matt like a wedding present and knew them back when they were using. Not that she introduced us, but it was a history that we shared that made us quick family. I was trying to remember, when did I meet Nicole? And I can picture these dark, big rooms where she was throwing the best dances NA ever had. You know, and I know that timing, because it's when it's pre, like, you know, living with my husband. So, you know, that could have been 30 years ago. And she was the best, you know. She was hardcore NA, clean, you know, which is why I had to say, hi, I'm Lynn, I'm clean. And over time, as my work, I knew sober people. I always was very careful about my language. You know, I didn't want to get the disapproval look, you know. At some point along the way, she asked me to be her sponsor. I only had a year more than her, but I had a different way of being than her, and you know how they say to get a sponsor of someone who has something you want. And so I was honored and privileged that I had something she wanted. And the truth is, she had things I wanted. It was a shared experience. As much as she shared about her, I shared about me. And it was a very intimate relationship. The dogs would start barking when she was half a block away. They knew her car, and they loved her so much. I didn't have 6, but I do have 3. So I'm on the road, you know, and so my dog, you know, of course the dogs loved her. My son loved her. My husband, Gary, loved her. She did everybody's hair at different times. She did my hair, too, and I was her sponsor. One time, my husband, thinking he was doing a nice thing, he gave me a present at Christmas, and it was a haircut at a salon, and I went. And oh my God, I didn't realize that I had just cheated on her. And it was a big deal, you know, and it was the one rupture in our relationship. She was going to find a new sponsor. So, you know, suddenly it was like, no, you don't go to enough meetings. You don't work the steps enough. And I was like, well, Nicole, I really think it's because I got a haircut somewhere else. You know, and once I identified it, then she was like, okay, fine. And so she came over, and I got the big NA step working guide, and I handed it to her, and I said, let's get started. And that was it. I gave her the book, and, you know, we had all, you know, she'd done steps, and what she wanted from me was more of a dialogue, an exchange, a personal relationship with that feedback. Although, of course, we live the steps, right? You're around enough, and you live the steps. They're integrated in your life. So we'd always bring it back to the steps. But it was funny when I handed her that book, and she gave me that look. Yeah, a lot of our dialogue was about, you know, she had very strong opinions, one might say opinionated, and was, you know, a staunch NA person with clear sight of the traditions and the steps and what was right and what was wrong. And so sometimes I had to work with her to kind of soften that, because it didn't help to get into fights about things, you know, and bring in people to do the votes, and get more people, bring in people from other meetings to do this vote, to get this or that. And so over time, it actually, she gradually did soften a little bit. Like, she did understand that the meeting would go on, and if it wasn't exactly the way she imagined it, it didn't necessarily have to be wrong. I mean, sometimes it was, but not always. And I think she learned that some of that fight was hard on her. But you know, when we fight and struggle in our childhoods, that just feels the way to be. And so she learned to fight in life to get what she wanted. And she wanted Matt, she got Matt, she wanted all of us, she got us. And you know, that's an honor and a privilege to have Nicole fighting for you. But fighting can be draining too. And so I really appreciated her openness to hearing me. Not that she always agreed, mind you. You know, we would, you know, negotiate some of that. And, you know, that was the beauty of our relationship, is these negotiations. And, you know, with her family, there was so much love and so much pain. And it was very hard for her to be so far away from her mom and her brother and how things were done. And, you know, to not be able to go back when she couldn't go back. But, you know, we just talked about her love and how to be loving and have boundaries and, you know, do what she could do, but that she could only do what she could do. And she could appreciate that. And so, yes, we did get to, you know, it's not about the personalities, it's the principles, right, in our lives. And I really tried to help support her with that. And again, she was a great listener for me, too, offering support. And, like, you know, I knew if I needed her to go, you know, bang someone up, she would have. Finally, we got her to bring Matt around, right? It was my one of my very best friends, Joanne's 50th sober birthday, and she brought Matt, and then soon after my 30th NA, and she brought Matt, so we finally got to meet Matt, you know, and that was sweet, and, you know, helped us at this moment of time to become close. Let's see. I know that during the years when there was times when she had to be isolated, but she never felt isolated. She had Matt. And she shared that with me, that she was not alone. For me, NA at one point, never alone, and she was never alone. She had Matt and she had her cats, you know, and she had Steve. And so she was never alone, and she knew that. And she had a consciousness of a higher power and the love of everybody. And there was a time when she said, Lynn, please don't tell anybody. I don't want people talking about me. And that's why it came as a surprise to so many of you that she was so sick, was that she didn't want to be gossiped about, and she was very private. And so that was, you know, something that was important to her, to have her privacy. But, you know, I quickly was able to become so connected. Matt, you're a loving, generous, wonderful man. And Steve, you know, loved you, you know, Nicole with all her heart and her beautiful family. And I'm honored to be able to be part of your family, and I'm always here for you all. And I love you, Matt, like we've always known each other. It's interesting. I feel you in her. And I just want to thank you all for letting me be here today and to be part of your family.
Thank you, Lynn. And now I'd like to hear from someone named Julie Landau. I didn't get to connect. Is she here, Julie Landau? Okay. Sorry, I didn't get to connect with you before the celebration, so thank you.
I'm going to cry through this, so I'm sorry. I met Nicole in I think the middle 80s, and I loved her from the minute I met her, and I used to go to Michael Villella as my hairdresser, and he was wonderful too, but somehow I got close to Nicole, and she used to, then I had a different hairdresser, Peter Nagai, I don't know if he's here, but Nicole worked there too, and she used to say to me, you've got gray hair, you got to dye your hair, and I'd say, I don't want to ever dye my hair. I'm going to go gray and be happy about going gray. And she said, looks bad. You got to do something. And I thought, doesn't look bad. Peter said, doesn't look bad. Anyway, at a certain point, I thought, it looks bad. And I switched from Peter to Nicole. And Nicole and I think that by then it was maybe, Matt, she was already married to you. So it had to have been in the maybe 1986 or 87 or, I know you got married in 90, but anyway, you had already been married. And I went to her every 2 weeks, starting in 1980, whatever it was, and I loved her. I mean, she was the most caring, kind person. We shared a million things. We cried together a lot because she was a crier. And I'm a crier, so we always understood when we were having a tough moment. She knew all about my adventures in life, and I knew about hers, and we both loved animals, and she took such good care of all the animals, and she'd tell me, I found another dog in the neighborhood. At a certain point, I thought, Nicole, how many dogs could you possibly have? And I don't know, Matt, how many it got up to, but I thought 10 or something. And then there were the cats, too, and she would spay and neuter, as, everybody, and when she'd run out of money, she'd start to cry, and I'd say, I'll give you the money. How much money do you want? How many cats? Let me help you. And we just bonded, but we were so bonded that I used to worry she was going to retire, and I'd say, Nicole, you can't retire. I never want you to retire. And she'd say, I don't want to retire. I'm not going to retire. And then when she got sick the first time, of course, I was scheduled to be seeing her that day, and she came. She called me crying, that she was in such terrible pain. I was like, Nicole, what's the matter? And she said, I don't know, but I can't breathe, and Anyway, it was the first bout. It was I think, multiple myeloma then. Anyway, and I thought, oh, she's going to get better. I know it. I can just feel it. She's going to recover. She'll be fine. And I know what she went through, Matt, because the two of you went through it together. She struggled. But she did it. She was tough. She got through it. And then she came back to work. And I was like in heaven that she was back to work, and we resumed our 2-week meetings and, whatever else, we would do. We would text each other all the time. We'd discuss recipes. We'd discuss fashion. And I thought she had such a good eye about everything. I loved how Nicole looked and her outfits, and I try to think of what outfit should I wear that Nicole will like. And if I wore Birkenstocks, she'd sneer. She hated Birkenstocks. Or if I wore Tevas, which I used to sneer about, but she would say, how can you wear that kind of stuff? I said, Nicole, it's in style. She said, it's horrible style. You shouldn't wear that. Anyway, so that's how we were. We were closer than sisters. We were just so bonded to one another. So that at a certain point, last summer, I started to think to myself, I'm watching her, and I can see she's not so strong, and I shouldn't force her to come back to work just because I want her to do my hair. I thought it's not fair of me to be selfish like that. I should start to look for another hairdresser, which I just wanted somebody closer, but I could never give up Nicole. Anyway, and then we live half the year in Washington, so she texted me about her brother dying. And I thought, it's too many deaths. Her mother, her Michael Villela, then the brother, and I thought, this is going to weaken her, because she was so emotional and so caring and so empathetic that I thought it's really hard to have this much loss. And sure enough, she said, I'm not feeling well. It's back. Something's back. And I thought, well, she'll beat it again. And by, I guess, September, right, Matt? But it was true. She didn't want to be talked about. We weren't supposed to tell anybody anything because she didn't want to be gossiped about. I thought, Nicole, this isn't about gossiping. People care. And she said, no, I don't want it. But it was so fast. It never occurred to me that she would die and not retire. I mean, that just wasn't in my memory or my mind that could happen. Anyway, I love her, I miss her, I feel her around. Every time I look in the mirror and I look at my hair, I think, would she like this? Or would she tell me, not like that, turn the curler thing the other way. No, you're not doing it right. Anyway, she just was so dear to me, and the loss of her to me is just, it's so deep and it's so difficult. On the other hand, I think she had a happy life. She was so happy with Matt. She was such a good person, and she affected so many different people's lives. And she was so true to NA and to AA and to all of it. She hated drug use. She hated, even when she had to be on morphine, she hated it. And I said, Nicole, this is not recreational use now. Now you need it. This is important. You're not gonna get high from taking morphine. You're just gonna be maybe out of pain. Anyway, I just want to say that I loved her. Matt, I think you're the most wonderful person. And she was so crazy in love with you, and Steve too. You know, Steve, I knew more about Steve, I think, than I knew about Matt. And I used to say, I think Steve is madly in love with you. And she'd say, no, we're just friends. You know, people can just be friends. I said, well, he's a wonderful guy too. You're lucky. You have two men that are so great to you. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to say, and I'll miss her, but we have the memory, so.
Thank you, Julie. That was lovely. Next, we'll hear from Angela. Angela, are you here? There you are.
Hi, my name's Angela. Wow, what a lot of people. She would be devastated, I would think. Anyway, I'm here on behalf of the Humble Abode. We have, I'm going to say we have Nicole. No, we don't. We have Liz and Lisa and Joan and Dina, and then all her clients, which is just wonderful to see. So thank you all for being here. Nicole and I had something also very special between us. We had this sort of telepathic relationship where we'd say nothing and just crack up. And she would look at me and I would look at her, and I'd giggle and fall in half. And the clients would just say, what are they laughing at? Anyway, it was a very wonderful 20-odd year relationship that I had with her. Indeed, it's nice to hear that people had their ups and downs with her, because, yes, I did too, but we got over it very quickly, and I loved her dearly, and she loved me dearly, and her hairdressing was just phenomenal, and it was lovely to watch her work. She was a great, great, great hairdresser. And I'm going to miss her. I miss her already, because I haven't had a haircut yet either. And it's been months and months and months, and I can't bring myself to go to anybody else. So maybe she'll come back. Anyway, I hope she does. And thank you all for being here. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Angela. Now, I can't remember if Judy, yes? Can't remember. We will now hear from another dear friend, Judy.
My name's Judy. Oh, I'm really moved by everything that I've heard today. The photos really messed me up. Just want to say they were beautiful and they really tugged on my heartstrings. When I first came to Hollywood 24 years ago, somebody said to me, "You have to meet Nicole. She's a great girl, she's awesome, and she does hair." So I met Nicole and I sat in her chair for 22 years. And we had many, many, many conversations about many different things. The thing that is sticking in my mind the most was I had a family. I had a family that I never knew about. I didn't know where they were. And she encouraged me. Every time I was in her chair, she encouraged me and gave me ideas of how I could find my family. And I did those things, and sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. One day they did, and I found my family, and Nicole was the first person that I called. I had to tell her all about it, and she was so excited for me. And you know, she was just very encouraging, and she was beautiful and soft and loving, and she was also had a very strong opinion. And she was the first one to tell you if she didn't like something, or if you were doing it wrong, or, you know, I'm gonna miss her. I'm gonna miss her a lot. I'm gonna miss her presence, but I will remember her always with love in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And now we're going to hear from Joe. Joe, are you here? Are you in the back row? Joe? Oh, there you are.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to see all these friends from Nicole's here. My name is Joe. I don't have a lot to say, I hope. You know, one of the things about these kind of events is I hear people talking about someone and it's not the person I knew, or they're talking about themselves. And I was sort of a peripheral character in Nicole's world. I was part of her life, but I was not like Matt or Phil or Lynn or Elodie or any of those people. But all of those people touched my life, you know, and Nicole touched an awful lot of people's lives. And the other thing I try not to do is deflect with humor, but I'm one of Nicole's greatest failures. You know, when I came to NA, actually, I had short hair, and I was working professionally, and she cut my hair. And then one point, I stopped, and I think it was, I went somewhere else because it was cheaper. And then I came back to Nicole, and all of a sudden, she went from $30 to $60. You know, which is, it says something about her ferocity and intensity, but that's something I loved about her, you know, and I remember her telling my friend Sinbad to stay away from the newcomer girls, you know, and he did after she told him, you know, and she helped a lot of people in 12-step recovery in Hollywood. You know, she was a regular at the noon meetings. When the church at Fountain in Fairfax stopped having meetings, she started meetings up at another location. She chaired the Unity Day events, and I remember coming back from a sponsor-directed vision quest that didn't work. I went out to the desert, and these guys were riding around me all night on ATVs drinking beer, and my vision quest didn't work, so I came back to Hollywood to go to the dance,
And Nicole was there doing registration, you know, and that's who she was. She was always there. And giving service and showing up. And, you know, Matt, you shared about her eyes, and that was the thing that always got me, because you could tell when she was happy, you could tell when she was mad, and it was all in the eyes, you know. And we're all very lucky people, you know, and that's it, you know. Thank you all for being here, Matt. My heart is with you, and Steve and Phil, you know, and I'm glad to have all of you guys in my life, because you guys made me stay here, and I'm grateful. Thanks.
Thank you all. That concludes the personal reflections, but does not conclude sharing. So now we'll move on to an open microphone. If you could kind of keep your sharing to around 3 or so minutes, so that all who would care to can share. Please share happy stories and memories about Nicole. If you do run out a bit, I might just gently make a hand gesture or something like that, or maybe not, depending how good your story is. But if you would like to, you know, just take a moment and think about if you'd like to come up here and share some happy reflections of how Nicole impacted your life. We all have very special memories. I'm looking at people who I know have stories, so if somebody wants to, yes, please. That's what I was looking at. Please. Jason.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason. I'm also was in recovery with a lot of people in this room, in Narcotics Anonymous and with Nicole. And my condolences to the family and to the people that were, you know, closer to Nicole than I ever was. But I did want to tell a story that kind of like, you know, about like what Joe was talking about. And it's funny because I didn't know that Nicole and I at the time, in 2008 when I came to Hollywood from another area, I didn't know that we were so close in the amount of time we had. It's funny because I thought she had way more time than me, but at that time we had roughly about the same amount of time. So I got a sponsor here in Hollywood when I came here, and and I'll tell you this, is that prior to coming to Hollywood, I hadn't really picked a fellowship yet, because it's really funny to hear kind of how NA focused that Nicole was. But once I went to meetings in Hollywood, and there were some very strong women here that are here right now that were here then, like Elodie and like Ellen and Lynn, and Nicole, right? And so one of the things that my sponsor had me do, which I had never been to a Narcotics Anonymous area meeting before when I came to Hollywood, and so one of the first things he had me do, he was the treasurer of the area at the time, he had me come to my first, and it was here. It was here in Plumber Park. Yeah, so the area meeting was here, and I don't know how it happened, but the very first area meeting I went to, Nicole had been the previous vice chair of this Unity Day, right? Unity Day 10. It was in 1999, and I don't know how, but she roped me into being vice chair. It's like, I was probably, and it all makes sense now, some of the things that I've heard, because I was probably looking around, looking scared, and looking vulnerable, and looking like I didn't fit in. And she probably picked up on that, and she nominated me, and I had just met her like 10 minutes ago, or maybe I'd seen her in a meeting, and so I became vice chair and then subsequently chair, and I got to work with her in Unity Day, and have modeled to me like some of, you know, one of the most amazing people in service in Narcotics Anonymous at that time. And so I'm forever grateful. I haven't seen her around, and now I know why, for a while in NA. But I think I saw her maybe 2 or 3 years ago at a meeting, and it's just always, she just holds a special place. She's a very special person. And so I'm really, really grateful that I came here today to share this time with you guys, just to appreciate Nicole, and her life. So thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jason. Is there anyone else? All right. Yay. Thanks, Jay. I'm going to leave the microphone up because you're taller.
Sorry, Linda, I was already standing, and I think I would have chickened out if I didn't get up here. I don't know if I could do this. So when I first came to Narcotics Anonymous, I don't remember meeting Nicole. I just remember, like, all of a sudden one day, Nicole and I hung out all the time, and it was just like, it was just such a natural progression. I remember, it was so funny listening to you guys talk about her collecting strays and stuff, because, man, like, I was one of those strays that she collected. And she was so fucking important to me in my early recovery. And she was so, like, genuine and beautiful and made me feel so comfortable and at home and at peace. And I loved her so much. There were a lot of us, but I don't know. If you know me, you know that I think I'm special, right? So I don't know when things changed with us, but it was like, I just remember, like, being invited over for Christmas dinner. And then it was Johnny One Eye was like, you ever meet Nicole's husband? And I'm like, no. And he's like, yeah, I think you guys would get along. And then, being introduced to Matt at that kitchen table on Fuller, we all hung out because we weren't allowed to hang out in the living room. You weren't allowed in the living room. But I finally got to go in the living room on Christmas, and we stayed up all night playing with Matt's slot car track. It was really fun. And it was just, she was a very special, magical person that, she changed my life. She just really, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm just so pleased and grateful that I got an opportunity to have that in my life. I wish she could be here right now. I think she would be, it's just kind of unfair that she doesn't get to share this with us. I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I always thought about it, and I had all these things I wanted to say, and I don't even know how to express myself other than I'm so fucking sad that my friend is not here, and that over the years we didn't get a chance to stay that close, and I'm full of regret, but I'm also grateful that I got to be a part of that life for a time, and my life is better because of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Is there anyone else? All right. Okay.
I'm Linda. I'm an addict. Nicole was my first sponsor. I met her in that coffee shop. I loved her so, so much. She helped me so much. She was my sponsor for my first 7 years. I didn't know she was sick, and somehow, some way, when she said she couldn't sponsor me anymore, I was really good friends with Lynn, and that I begged them to let her stay my sponsor, and it didn't happen. And I don't know, it was because we were both too proud or what it was, but I didn't really stay in touch with her much. But very, very grateful, like Jay was saying, that I got to meet her, and she was in my life for the first 7 years. She taught me so much about love and friendship, and she was such a special, special person. She was at my wedding. There's a funny story I have to tell about that. When I went to my sister's third wedding in Michigan, because I'm from Michigan too, she slapped me across the face, like from some childhood thing that she didn't, that came up, and she did whatever. And then I told Nicole about it. So when Nicole was in the room with me and I was getting ready for, getting dressed for my wedding, my sister knocked on the door and she said to her, "No one's coming in here." And I was just like laughing, and I just thought it was so great because she was protecting me. She didn't want anything bad to happen, you know, between me and my sister because of what had happened in the past. And she was very loyal. She very matter of fact. She'll like tell you exactly what she thinks. And I don't know. I wonder if that's like a lot of people from Michigan maybe are like that. I think I'm like that too. But anyway, I don't know. I don't want to talk about myself, but I'm just devastated to hear that what happened, and I'm just gonna miss Nicole so, so much. I really, really loved her, and I'm just grateful that she was in my life for those 7 years. And I did see her a few times after, and she cut my hair, but she was just such a beautiful person. And I really feel it so much in my heart for Matt and for Steve and Lynn and everyone that knew her. Thank you, that's it.
Hi, I'm Stephen. It's great to see such a great crowd here, and I'm not surprised. I just wanted to get up just briefly to express gratitude. I knew Nicole in the rooms. I got clean in 2005, and the meeting 1 hour dose on Thursdays from 6 to 7, right? It was Earth School for me. I mean, it was a safe space, a beautiful safe space, and Nicole and Steve, they just welcomed me, and I continued to go until the pandemic, until we closed, and that was tough. Yeah, that was tough. But her kindness, she was tough though. She was, she was tough. Michigan tough. But she loved me because I love cats. She just loved me. You know, I was a stray also, and you know, it was just, she just loved me, and I loved her, and she just, I mean, I remember times I would just say, my gosh, you know, life is working me, life is living me, and she understood what I meant by that. And then, but I used to tell her, Nicole, you make really, really weak coffee. And nobody wants weak coffee at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Don't make the coffee. Get somebody else to make the coffee. So anyway, I was communicating with Steve regarding the service, and I want to extend my condolences to. Wow, you have a cool aunt, and to Matt, yeah. So I texted Steve and I said, you know, how can I help? I'll do whatever it is that I can do to help. And he texted me back. He said, could you help with the coffee? And I thought, you know, wow, that's kind of Nicole kind of giving me a nod of you know, from Beyond Earth School. So anyway, I just want to say I'm just so grateful that that Nicole held space for me in my early recovery. She did it for 15 years consistently. She was always there. You know, I remember one time really quickly, it's just coming into my mind's eye, it was a Halloween party, some party, and she came in and she was a surfer with a great big surfboard. And I was a chola from East LA. And we laughed and we just had a good time. And my life is richer because I have Nicole in it. So thank you.
I'm Lauren, I'm an addict. I met Nicole in 2017, and their meeting 1 hour dose was at my place of employ. And I couldn't go at that time to that meeting because you weren't allowed to attend meetings that were at the same place where you were employed. So, but Nicole would always tell me about all the problems, and she would tell me what was going on and who was this and that, and which staff member was giving her a bad time about the meeting and stuff like that. And I too come from a mixed marriage. So my man at the time was NA, and I'm from the mothership. I was a AA'er. And so when the pandemic hit and we went online, I was able to start attending the meeting. And I would attend with my then man, and he was having health issues, and we would get on there, and he'd fall asleep, and there I was at the meeting, and it was just like I never got to leave, because after he passed away, Nicole just started giving me orders, kind of, you know, like, are you going to be there, and can you find a speaker, and stuff like that. And I watched Nicole with a couple of people I see in here that are regulars from that little meeting, that little Zoom meeting, and she always would check on people. You know, Big Rick, she'd check on you. Chris, you know, she would be, if she didn't see somebody, she'd find out where they were and what was going on. And I feel very, very, very blessed to have had her in my life and to have known her, because she's just a great example of a human being. And I just feel blessed to have had her in my life. And she was very funny. We would be on the Zoom, and her cats would be going back and forth, and sometimes she'd have to call. I would call Matt was IT in that meeting, because if she had trouble with the computer, she'd have to call on Matt. So, and I would enjoy watching her and Steve argue sometimes. And I would have to tell them, okay, now don't get domestic on me. This old lady's going to go off to bed. And I was very, very good at code switching the language of the AA and the NA. So I tried not to get in trouble. But sometimes some of us other ones that loved her dearly got in trouble. And they'd accidentally say sober and get in trouble. So anyway, it was just wonderful to see everybody, and she was just a great part of my life. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ilya. I met Nicole about 30 years ago at probably the lowest point of my life. I met her in a meeting in Hollywood. It was a 10 o'clock meeting. It was a pretty shady area over there on Sunset and Highland. And I remember, you know, I was I was a mess. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I kind of hid out in the back. And there was Nicole with, you know, she was very loving, very kind. She always had a smile. And she always made it a point to come and say hi to me and to give me a hug and tell me that I wasn't alone and I didn't have to face, you know, what was happening in my life alone. And every week I would come back because she made me feel loved and wanted. And at that time, I didn't surround myself with people that made me feel that way. And I remember no matter where I went or what event I was at, if Nicole was there, she always made it a point to come up and say hi to me and to give me a hug. And at times, she would force me or drag me out to different outings after meetings. And I really don't know that if I would have survived if someone like her hadn't shown up in my life. I hung around the program for a few years, but I didn't really stay. But Nicole cut my hair for 30 years until the day she died. In fact, prior to Matt sending me a text, the last few days I kept thinking to myself that I needed to text Nicole to tell her that it was time to come see her, because it wasn't just the haircut that made our visit special. It was the last 30 years, every 6 to 8 weeks, I knew that Nicole would be there and I'd have that hour with her. And we would spend it talking about people that we knew in the program, you know, whether they were succeeding or they're not. It was more about our connection of how I was doing, how she was doing, all of her animals running around. And it was always a special hour for me because she was a genuine person, someone that I really cared about and I knew cared about me. And they were just meaningful conversations to me, and it just reminded me of the past and how much she helped me. And throughout all of our conversations, she would always tell me about people that were in her life and people that she's helping. And the world is missing a really genuine, kind person that made the world a lot better. And I'm deeply saddened and shocked. You know, my first haircut that I had to get after was very devastating. The hairdresser even told my wife and her friends that what's wrong with him, he wouldn't talk to me, he was just sitting there. And it's very difficult for me to lose someone like Nicole, because she is one of the people that I would credit for saving my life. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think she's saved a lot of lives and touched a lot of people. And, you know, I want to say a couple things that Lynn touched on, because, you know, Matt, Nicole spoke of you for so many years, but we didn't believe you existed because you were a phantom. And, you know, she always talked greatly about you, and it was, you know, I am just lucky to have met her. And, you know, I would say about a year ago, she gave me a clipping of her apple tree in her yard, and that tree is growing in my yard now, although it's still in a bucket, but it's very meaningful to me now because it gives me a memory of Nicole. And I just want to say that I really am going to miss her, and I will always remember her and be grateful for her friendship.
Hello, my name is Dugan. Technically met Nicole as my neighbor 20 years ago, and Matt, Nicole first, of course. I was sitting down trying to rack my brain for how we met. All I remember is I would see her walking around with the dogs and then cats in tow, and probably Steve a lot too as well. But when we first met, she just kind of like appeared in our yard. And she had befriended my brother, who was like, I think he's watching from Germany right now. And it's really crazy how fast life moves. But what I wanted to share was her and Matt, but initially Nicole, were so good at getting these two wayward, silly teenage boys to commit to doing things around the neighborhood and learning about the neighborhood as like total like hermit boys who just stayed inside and like played video games and music and stuff. And you know, she moved to the neighborhood after us and somehow knew so much more about it in such a short period of time. It was the coolest thing. It was like, you know, your neighborhood ChatGPT before that existed was, you're like, who lives there? And Nicole would just know. Like, yeah, and they have like 2 dogs, and like one of their sons lived there. They don't live there anymore. They had kind of a falling out. You're like, how do you know that? But she just had that kind of magic quality about her where her initial charm and goofiness was so disarming that you would get really close to her, and then, yeah, she would really hold you accountable. And, you know, her and Matt will get my brother and I, my brother's story. There was some guy who I think was like a vet who was having a tough time, and she somehow got my brother to like help him build something in his backyard. And my brother's like kind of a tough dude, but even he came back and was like, I don't know who this guy was like intense. I don't know how Nicole even talked to her. I don't know if she wrote me into this job, but I'm like digging these ditches with this like insane Iraq war veteran. I'm like, whoa, dude, that's crazy. But she could just get you to do that kind of stuff because she was such a good barometer for like where your character was at. And another time, I know there was a couple that lived down the street from us. And again, it's like all such a blur, but I remember Matt being like fully dressed. He had to go to some meeting thing, and he was like, I wouldn't ask you if I didn't really need you to do this thing, but there are these ladies, they need some help. I don't know what happened. But I got in there, and without getting too much into the details, this woman, an elderly woman, had kind of gotten trapped in her bathroom, and you know, no help was coming, and so my brother and I went over there, and we just didn't know what to do. I mean, I had never like cared for anybody like that before, and next thing I knew it, I was like standing up this very tall, like Swedish 6'2" woman in a shower to help her and get her clean and get her out onto the couch where her son could come. And these are just things that I would not have done if I hadn't met her and Matt and didn't feel like I was being tested, you know, or like held to a higher standard. And it's really, really cool when you meet people like that, because there aren't too many people like that. And I think it's so awesome to be in this room with all of you guys and to share that sentiment. So thank you.
had a lot of wonderful memories. Okay. Waiting for you. We'll hear from Roy.
Hi, I'm Roy. I'm going to try not to cry. I cried a bunch when I heard the news, and it's the first time in 17 years of knowing Jason that I've seen him cry, and I guess that's a statement for how wonderful Nicole was. I met Nicole in 2003. I was just back from rehab. It was probably my third meeting it was a meeting called Progressive Recovery up here in Gardner. And they had 68 days clean. And they said they needed a GSR, so I volunteered for it. And she looks over at my other friend, Kev, and they said, let's go outside and talk about this. So they went outside, and they were outside for 20 minutes. I was thinking, like, when they come back in, am I convicted? You know? I felt like I was waiting for the jury to come back in. And they came back in and they decided to give it to me. And I did that commitment for a year. I secretaried that meeting for a year, and Nicole and I became really good friends. So I asked her afterward, I said, so what was the big deal? You had to be outside so long. He says, well, the GSR, you know, carries all the money for the meeting to the area, and you're supposed to have a year clean time. So I said, well, why did you change your mind? She said, well, we saw that you had a new car, like a brand new Acura, so we figured that you're probably good for it. I didn't tell them I owed 5 car payments. You know, such as be, Nicole and I became really good friends. And we try to make the women with the women and the men with the men. But there's times that the women are so important because, you know, who do you go to talk to when you have a problem with a relationship? When I was struggling with the relationship I came in with, she was the person that one of the persons I talked to, you know, and through the years, she was always, always there for me, you know, and, you know, if you stay clean for a few decades, you got a lot of problems with romance, a lot of broken hearts, you know, and Nicole helped me through a lot. When my wife was going down the road of addiction in 2017, when I realized that the woman that I married who didn't smoke, drink, or do anything was now raging out on methamphetamine and alcohol, and, you know, who do you call? I called Nicole, and she was always there, you know, and I'd wish I'd met her sooner. I had a few years in the early 90s, and I was talking to Steve about it. I was, if I had met her maybe in 94, it might have been the deciding factor to get me to stay, so I wouldn't have had to go through 6 years of raging relapse. And I was so grateful for, you know, that little meeting that she started. It was in a methadone clinic when she started it. That's why it was called 1 Hour Dose. And we'd be sitting there watching all the people come in and get their juice while we were in the meeting. And when it went to Zoom during the pandemic, I hated the Zoom meetings. I need to see people. I need to hug people. I need to look in people's eyes. I need that contact. And I didn't know what to do. And a lot of people with time, and here I'm sitting there with like 17, 18 years, whatever it was when the pandemic hit, and I was getting really, really squirrely. And I found out that that little meeting was on Thursday night, and I made that my home group. So I saw Nicole every single week, and if I didn't get on there, every week there'd be a message in the phone. Meeting, 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 meeting. You know, she would always text me. She'd always text me to check on me. You know, she was just a wonderful person. I probably would have been in her house many times, except for that I'm extremely allergic to cats and most dogs. So I would have come in with a smile on my face and left on a gurney. I told this. I'm gonna tell a joke just to lighten things up a little bit. This is a joke that my friend Larry told me, and I actually told this to Nicole probably in September when we were having a conversation on the phone. It was from an old timer named Larry who passed away this year. And as it goes, there's 2 old timers with multiple decades clean, and they make a deal with each other. He says, look, whoever goes first has to promise to come back and tell us if there's NA meetings in heaven. And so they make this deal with each other. So finally, another, few years passes and one of them goes, and then one day I'm sitting on a Saturday afternoon, all of a sudden his friend appears and he says, wow. He says, it's you. He says, tell me, is there NA meetings in heaven? He goes, well, there's good news and there's bad news. He says, well, what's the good news? He says, well, there are NA meetings in heaven, a lot of them. He says, what's the bad news? He says, you're the speaker next week. I actually told that to her. One of the last long conversations I had with her, because I was remembering Larry. Anyway, I think that it's going to take a while to get over this. I've lost so many friends and so many people in the rooms in the last few years, and each one of them leaves a hole, a little bit of hole left there, And I cherish the memory of her, and I hope you all do too. And thanks for letting me share my little piece. Thanks.
Anyone else? Probably have time for one more. Anybody? Okay. Our last one.
My name's Susan. I'm an addict. And I just want to say, Nicole, thanks. I needed a hairdresser, and a good friend of mine told me about Nicole. And I just started seeing her. I don't know how many years it was. I don't know if it was 20 or 15. But I'd go see her and kind of just say, make me look fabulous, and she would give me some awesome haircuts. And during that time, we would talk about movies and sharing. I always feel that, we're all sort of given certain gifts to use here. And the people that are directed to do things that are a little harder are given maybe special love for those things. And I think when it comes to animals, somebody has to give somebody a lot of love, because that's hard. And she had that. I feel bad that I wasn't closer to her at the end. And she was funny and loving, and she was an incredible artist. And she was a rescuer. Anyway, I'm going to miss her. And Nicole, thank you for everything. And that's it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, that was lovely, some lovely shares, lovely stories. We're gonna close now, but before we do, some donation information on the back table. I'm gonna share this. If you would like to donate in honor and in celebration of Nicole to a cause very close to her heart, please see the information on the table back there where the photos are. Nicole brought many kitties over the years to Fix Nation. She was a champion of their work. Fix Nation is a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles dedicated to reducing the homeless cat population through humane trap, neuter, and return program. So if you're interested in donating, that information again is on the back table. Thank you to all who helped put on this celebration. Thank you to all who came to honor Nicole. Life is better having had Nicole in it. We have to get out of this room very quick afterwards. So if anybody would like to help us clean up, we appreciate that. We will now close this celebration of life with just a moment of silent reflection for Nicole. Let's take a few moments. Thank you, everyone.